Welcome back, everybody. We really appreciate you listening and your comments on social media and joining us on Patreon. We're just loving the discussion that has been coming together through the podcast. So please keep it up. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how to create a spiritual practice for yourself and that actually really reflects who you are. It's just a lot easier to feel spiritually connected when you have a regular practice. But sometimes we don't know what that looks like, or it's always been prescribed in a different way. And so thinking about it differently is a little bit weird. So we thought we'd chat about that today.
Yeah, I so agree with that. I think it really does help ground and center you when you've got something consistent that you are able to connect with something larger than yourself or meaning making.
Yes.
And as we were preparing today, I love that we're word geeks together. I hope you all are word geeks, because here we go. The etymology of spiritual and practice. I was like, what are those anyways? And I was so excited because spiritual, the Latin is spiritus and it's breath. And the Greek, I don't know how to say this. Prasein, Prassein, to do or to act. And it evolved into prakitos, which is concerned with action. So the practice is taking action on breath. And what came to my mind, first of all, is that around the globe, breath is linked to our creation, from Adam and Eve to stories like the Jewish myth, and in Norse, Odin breathes life into people all around the globe. This is like in the Oshun practices, breath equals life. But what it brought to my mind is, yes, your spiritual practice should be as easy as breathing.
Oh, I love that.
It should not be this contrived, this made up thing for anyone else. It should be peaceful and easy for you. I thought that was beautiful. A great place to start today.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Plus, I think that's a really good point, because especially if someone is starting from scratch, they might think that it has to be this like the more effort you put in, the better it'll be, or I have to set aside, 3 hours a day to meditate, or you might even be like a little bit overwhelmed by choices, because there's so many different things you can do, right? Like you can go to religious service, you can take a walk in nature, you can do some spell casting. There's so many different things that make up a practice that sometimes it's really hard to figure out. Like, what are we supposed to do? Where do we start? But I love the idea of it being as easy as breathing, because that just means it's going to be something that's like second nature to you, or something that is so not just integral to who you are, but also something that maybe after a little bit you don't even think about because you just integrate it into your life.
Yeah, so true. And that if you can carry that etymology with you, that breath is your connection to the divine. So when you simplify things, that's actually getting into alignment with the divine.
I love that.
Nature's never in a hurry. Nature does what it will do when it will do it. You can't rush a flower.
Right.
So taking your time as you're building up your spiritual practice, it doesn't have to look any way. In fact, the harder you're trying, probably that's not spiritual to you. Probably that's contrived.
Yeah.
And it will evolve, right? At different times, we're breathing different ways. When I'm relaxed, it's a very easy, deep breathing. When I'm a little stressed, I'm breathing shallow. And when we're stressed, maybe our practice takes on a different form. It's more intense, right? So using breath as a guide to your practice, all the metaphors that you can think of, share some in the comments. I'm sure you guys will have more than we think of. So that just really struck me. I was so excited to learn about this. So, I love your question, Jennafer, and maybe, I don't know if you want to answer this, I'm putting you on the spot, but okay. Why do small regular rituals matter? Why do they matter more than like the big grand gestures?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh, it's my question.
It is. It's why it's a great question.
I'm like, well, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I was like, oh, hey. I do every so often. I surprise myself, I guess.
It's because you're brilliant. It's good. It's good.
Thank you. I think there's a couple different reasons. First of all, there's something about routine or doing things over and over again, right? Like, we don't necessarily think about what we're going to do in the shower or how we're going to brush our teeth, because we just kind of do that regularly, right? Or we have our morning coffee, or we go for a walk after dinner, or whatever it is. There are things that, like, ritualizing in like a small way becomes like part of the fabric of our lives, or part of like what we do every day. And so I think that's part of it. And I also think that sometimes the bigger the ritual, unless it's a ritual with other people, like, because sometimes we have community rituals, or, you know, we celebrate people's milestones, like their graduations or their weddings, or, you know, things like that. Unless it's something that brings like the tribe together, I don't know that bigger means better as far as spiritual practices go. I think the best part of it is just what it means to you and how it kind of like weaves into your life. And bigger may mean more effort, but it isn't the effort that counts when we're trying to connect. It's the result, right? It's the part of us that is just like always sort of reconnecting or remembering our connection to the everything or the divine or whatever you want to call it. Because in some ways we're just going to find the little things like add up better than the big things. Does that make sense?
It does. I love this from a Capricorn perspective too. Saturn, ruler of Capricorn, is the 10,000 hours make you an expert. That's a Saturnian phrase. Totally. And so if you want to be your spiritual expert, your spiritual authority, you have to put in the time, and doing something consistently is easier if it's not elaborate and for show for other people, or even, you know, like maybe you're super Venetian and setting a gorgeous table is a spiritual practice.
Oh, sure.
Right? As you prepare for dinner each night, setting the table with beautiful china or real silver or whatever that is, that can be a spiritual practice.
I agree.
So tuning into what puts you in alignment where your breath does slow down, that will be a good clue of, hey, that could become a spiritual practice. Taking a bath, right? We don't have to, I think that's part of being a modern mystic, is everything is spiritual if you choose to view it through that lens. Doesn't matter what you're doing. And maybe you can speak to this since you lived in Japan, but one of the things I love about their culture is the mindfulness to everyday things.
Yes. There's a lot of ceremony that goes on with even just things like having some tea, or things like that are very important. And the mindfulness and the intention of many, especially like Eastern cultures, tends to be something that we don't always embrace here, but has so much wisdom to give. I also feel like you're so right, because adorning something can be a spiritual, adorning your body can be a spiritual practice. You know, beautifying your space. There are so many different things. And I think sometimes when we think we need to have a spiritual practice, and we think it needs to be something kind of big, we just sort of miss our connection to it, if that makes sense. So there's just kind of a really interesting thing. There's just not one thing that fits everyone, right? Like you're saying, I'm definitely ruled by Saturn. And like other people.
I have heavy Saturn too. So this is why we get along.
Or like some people tend to just like being in the flow of things. Yes. And so they'll do something maybe creative, and just being in the flow is really connective for them. So I just think there's so many different ways that we process things, and so many different ways that we approach things. I don't know that one spiritual practice fits everybody. And that may be why maybe you've seen people talking about their spiritual practice, but it seems like a lot of work to you, or it seems like, why would that be interesting? Like, because everything doesn't fit everyone. So it's definitely more personal. And I think when we're trying to be people who really accept our own kind of divine authority, being able to craft a spiritual practice that really feeds our soul is one of the best ways to do that, right? We're not trying to do what everyone else is doing. We're doing what works for us. And maybe it is a little bit from this and a little bit from that. And it's like you're just going down the spiritual buffet and making yourself a plate. But that's okay. I just think, I don't know, there's just not one thing that fits everyone.
Yeah. I love to play like drums for ceremony, things like that. And when you begin drumming, for a lot of people, they cannot drum for themselves. They can't drum and meditate.
Oh.
It takes a lot of practice to be able to drum and enter trance at the same time. Especially if you're facilitating. It's very hard to get into that space, facilitate and drum. You're doing 3 things. So it's okay to grow your practice. It's okay to be flexible and start out where something might be a little bit difficult, but it's something you really want to do. It excites you. It creates passion within you for, I would love to incorporate that. I don't think anyone doing, complicated yoga poses the first time was like, this is like breathing. There is
so true.
There is difficulty in mastery, and that's okay. We're not saying don't do that. We're saying if you're doing it because someone else is, if you're doing it because you think it should is a key word for you, it should look like this, then maybe that's not for you. Maybe that's someone else's spiritual practice, and you can, right, again, from Eastern cultures, I don't need to own everything. I can observe the beauty of it when someone else has that thing. I can observe the beauty of that spiritual practice that I may not participate in. And it doesn't take away from my enjoyment of it or for the spirituality of it for that person. So understanding what works for you and being flexible that it's okay if something's a little hard, but I'll grow into it. I will become proficient at that thing.
I love that. And I think we're a really good example of that because Lola loves to meditate and it makes me crazy.
Yes.
So I feel, and that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate that it works for her or millions of other people in the world, I'm sure. But I can meditate if I'm doing something, but just sitting and meditating, like even if I have prayer beads to kind of guide me through, that's better than me just sitting and meditating. So it doesn't mean that I don't have respect for it or that I think everybody who's doing it is weird. I'm like, great. I'm so glad that works for you. But for me, I kind of know I have to fiddle with it a bit and see how that goes. So we're a pretty good example of that, I think, at least in that area.
Yeah, I think we are too.
Yeah.
I also think another layer of this is, we've talked about it in other episodes, but asking yourself questions, getting in touch with you, to know what you want out of it. What is the point of your spiritual practice? Is the point to get centered and calm? Then meditation might be a good tool. Go for a walking meditation. But if it's to connect to Odin, I don't know that meditation is the correct path. What is your purpose for this spiritual practice? What are you trying to accomplish? And Jennafer has some other really, brilliant questions.
I think if you just ask yourself a few questions, then you don't have to like make something up or go to somebody else's formula. You just go, oh, okay, these things are true for me, so I'll start there. And I think those are so questions to ask yourself, like what really makes you feel grounded or connected? Maybe it is time in nature. Maybe it's sitting by water. Maybe it's hiking. I don't know. But what makes you feel like kind of calm, centered, and grounded? And then also, what do I even want my practice to give me? Is it peace, like you were saying? Is it perspective? Is it better understanding of who you are or what you're doing in the world? Knowing what you want out of it will also kind of help you get there. And then also just where else do you feel spiritual in your life? Because if you feel like a great reverence when you're hanging out with your family and they're having like a really great conversation, then that is already a spiritual thing. So knowing where you already find it can definitely help. And also, when do you feel most like yourself? Because if you feel like you have to put on an act to do your spiritual practice, you're not only less inclined to do it, it's not going to necessarily do what you want it to do, if that makes sense. It won't really connect you to who you are. And one of the things I love about spirituality is that it connects us to something bigger than ourselves. It connects us to like-minded people. And then, but it also connects us to who we uniquely are. And that's not something that I think a lot of people realize, is that understanding and connecting to who you uniquely are in the world is one of the most spiritual things you can do.
I would say maybe it should be the first point, honestly.
Good point.
I mean, it's great to know the everything. It is a tremendous feeling of love, and I mean, it's ineffable, it's unspeakable. This is why we struggle with describing that.
Yes.
But when you know you and the everything, that is when magic happens. That is when we get in these transcendent states and get answers and see the bigger picture and find our way through the muddy mess of life. If there's no you on that point, it doesn't matter what you're looking at in the everything, because it's just a sea of the everything.
So true.
There has to be a you to connect to something first. And I don't think that's often taught in Western spirituality, especially even in meditation. So I love to marry Western and Eastern, because Eastern is let go of your identity, let go of everything, let go of self, let go of ego, and connect with the everything and be one. Yes. But I don't live in an ashram on a mountaintop. I have to go get gas. I have to make dinner. And I am not living a life of restriction and celibacy and no's. I'm living a life of yes to more. That's how I live. So there has to be conscious thought involved. I have to be awake. I have to be present. And for me, community is my spiritual practice. That's part of why we're doing this podcast, because that's how we feel.
I agree.
We want a larger community to be part of that. So knowing yourself and knowing from which point your flaws, your strengths, all of you are connecting to the everything, then your spiritual practice takes on a depth that's truly transcendent.
I love that. I also find that, your practice doesn't have to be one thing or the other thing.
Yeah.
I have a dear friend who is part of the predominant religion here. She's LDS, but she also goes to like a Pentecostal church service every so often because she really loves that. And so part of their traditions are they go to like the Christmas Eve service at one church, and they do something else with their other church. And there's nothing wrong with mixing and matching. It works for them. They get to kind of experience two different parts of holiday connection and community connection, and they're perfectly happy doing it. So I feel like combining Western and Eastern is so important. There's so much wisdom that Eastern traditions give us. And I also feel like sometimes religions or groups try to homogenize us, or we naturally homogenize because we're like, oh, I don't look like all the other people here, or I don't speak the same way, or that kind of thing. And so whether the system tries to do it or we just kind of plug into it, sometimes it's not the consistency, but everybody being kind of the same. It doesn't always let you be yourself without feeling like you might stick out like a sore thumb. So knowing who you are, and you don't have to apologize for that. You don't have to explain it to anyone. You can do whatever works for you in whatever way you want to do it. And that is just as important to being a modern mystic. It's claiming your authority in all of this.
I love that so much. I wanted to say here, and I haven't run this by you, Sage, you may have to help us out here. But we've talked, and I think we would love to get together and meet with you guys in person in the future. So will you let us know what you're looking for when we get to connect in person? I love that we get to share this time with you and meet with you every week like this, but I can't wait to see your face.
I love that. Yeah. Anything that we're open to anything, any ideas really. So
Yeah.
if it means like we're actually getting online and, talking online, or if we're getting together in person, I think that would be great. And what would you want that to look like? A meet and greet, some kind of spiritual practice together, just like a really great discussion. Yeah, just let us know. That'd be
Let's
great.
know what you're seeking so that we can
Yes.
better meet those needs, right?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. So the last thought that came to me is how much my spiritual practice has changed. It used to be which is probably why meditation, it used to be very prayer focused, and meditation is prayer.
Yes.
So that hasn't changed. That's been consistent since I was a tiny little girl. I would sit in reflection as a small child. That's been me always. So that's a good clue too. Look back to childhood. What brought you peace then? What made you feel everything's okay then? That thing may be a spiritual practice for you. But, I do tarot like you. We do all kinds of divinations. We have all kinds of other spiritual practice now that definitely weren't part of my upbringing or part of what I did as a child. And if you don't know, you're like, I don't know what is breathing to me because I don't know spiritual practice. It's okay to try a lot of things and to stop doing those things. What were we talking about the other day? And you were saying, I tried it. It was not for me. And maybe it was meditation. I can't remember. You went somewhere and it was a spiritual thing and you were trying on spiritual things. Did you remember? Sorry.
I don't.
Putting you on the spot. I don't remember either.
There's so many things that aren't me.
Yeah, but you were like, I will try anything once for a spiritual practice. And I love that about you.
Yeah. I have found it's really fascinating because when I was a kid, I love that, by the way, what made me, feel kind of reflective or connected as a kid. When I was a kid, I wasn't raised religiously at all. So prayer wasn't really something we did, but I reflected. I wrote a lot. I journaled a lot. And it was like a way for me to kind of put down my thoughts or make sense of the world. Sometimes I wrote stories too. So that kind of thing. And then also being by the ocean was the first time I ever felt connected to something bigger than me. And I wouldn't say that I thought it was God. I just thought, oh my gosh, this massive thing is here, and it could care less whether or not I'm appreciating it or not. It's just going to be here. But I felt so connected to the water and that kind of thing. So I love that. Like, go back to your childhood and what made you feel connected, good, peaceful, grounded, all of those things.
Another word that came to mind as you were sharing your experience with the ocean, mine was the redwood trees in California.
Oh, so pretty.
Awe. We're talking about awe.
Ah, that's a good word.
Something that puts you in awe.
Yes.
And even Google awe.
Yes.
The research on it right now, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Oh, good. That's how I feel about like great musical performances too, like symphonies, or when people are even like musicals, but just listening to people like create something out of nothing with vibration, whether it's like through a musical instrument or their own voices or all of the above, is so amazing to me. And also, this is so weird, but I have awe when I'm in a plane, because every single time I'm like, this doesn't make sense that we can have this very heavy thing full of hundreds of people, like, just cutting through the air. And so I'm always like, it's kind of cool that we can do this. And so, there's just little things that I think, even if it's everyday things, finding that awe is really important. I like that. Awe and reflection.
Yeah.
Good calls.
And my last one is one of the things that I have picked up as a spiritual practice that is now routine, that was not for me at all in the beginning, is I have turned my brain on to notice synchronicities. Pay attention. And I just would set that intention every morning of notice what shows up. Notice where you can see the everything showing up in your life and bringing your life together for you. And the more you ask that question, the more your brain will see those answers. Your brain answers any question you ask it. So ask good questions.
I love that because I think it's like when you had to tune into a radio frequency, right? Like you could still pick it up if you weren't at the right kind of place. But if your brain is like really focused on something, then it can see it a little bit quicker or easier. And I also think that sometimes people who really value logic over intuition, observation is something that's really easy for them to do, right?
Yes.
They don't have to feel like they have to have some sort of like big emotional experience to feel like they're connecting dots, they're seeing patterns, they're, noticing things that they haven't before. And so I think sometimes when it comes to people that lead with their brain, even in their spiritual practice, if you tell them, well, go feel something, then they'll be like, what? But if you're a feeler first, then you might do something really like sensory. You might do something that, makes your feet touch the ground. Maybe not when it's winter, but, like other times, or, like I said, the vibration part for me of music is so great. But it depends on kind of who you are and the way you approach things and the way you learn. But I also love that you were talking about evolving because I do pull tarot cards. I am more, I sometimes pay attention more to my dreams, things like that.
Dream journals, great spiritual practice.
Oh my gosh, totally. But I also feel like there's something about moving your body, whether it's like dancing around your living room or it's doing like some gentle stretches or things like that, that are a really great way to kind of connect and get your brain chemicals going too. And so there's just like a lot of different ways to connect. There are whole societies that dance to connect or twirl to connect or, things like that where they're not just sitting and connecting. So I think it kind of depends on the person you are. If you tend to be someone who learns by doing, then having something to do for your spiritual practice is really
like tarot might be good for you.
Absolutely. Or runes or the I Ching or whatever floats your boat. Yeah.
Astrology dice. We're not picky.
Yeah.
I just saw and learned about that part of the reason why tarot and these other divination systems work, it's like when psychology uses ink blot tests. Because the artwork is ambiguous, it connects with the archetypes or the unconscious mind, and it brings forward things that we wouldn't tap into otherwise. And that's the mechanism that divination is using to function and to give us that deeper meaning that our logic brain doesn't have access to.
I like that. And I think because archetypes and roles and kind of common situations, they're just really common to a lot of people.
Yes.
So it's almost like kind of tapping into what we all experience. So there's like an everything and a community and a self part to that, which is really lovely.
Yes.
And I like it.
Yeah. And our beautiful editor, Sage, I adore that he uses dance to process emotional things. What a spiritual practice to work through shadow through moving your body.
Yes.
Like it doesn't think outside the box. I love that that's one of his spiritual practices. It's beautiful.
Also, he's good at it. So it's like gorgeous to watch too. Yeah.
It's a spiritual practice for us to watch. And for him, it's a spiritual practice to perform.
Exactly. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
It's kind of full circle.
Right.
I dig it. Awesome.
Okay. I think I really love that you brought up writing.
Oh, okay.
I really like that. If you don't know where else to start, you can get a piece of paper and a pencil. Like it's less than $1 to get access to that.
Yep.
So don't feel like you have to buy these expensive tools or spend tons of time and money learning something. You can start very simply. Start where you're at. What do you have access to today? That's another good question.
I agree.
Ask your brain.
I also just think it doesn't take a ton of time. So you can have a spiritual practice by just doing a really, really simple action or just taking some time to breathe. Since we were talking about breath being so important, you can light a candle with intention. You don't have to have like a whole hour. And if you do have an hour, you can do a lot of other things. So I feel like it's one of those things that you can either kind of marry to something you're already doing. Like maybe you're doing your spiritual practice in the morning while you're drinking your coffee, or, right after dinner, or whatever it is. You can do that, or you can say, I might set aside more time, and you'll have different kinds of choices depending on the time. And we're going to be putting something on the Patreon, if you'll follow us there, that helps you have a bit of like a menu to draw from. Like, if I've only got this much time, I could try these things. And it's meant to be a springboard. So if you're reading it and you go, well, I don't want to do that, but I could do this, that's totally fine. It's not meant to be, we're not really dogmatic here. So it's more like, something to get your ideas flowing and that kind of thing. And so it'll be a download for you on that. But that way you'll have like a bunch of things at your fingertips. And I think when you're trying to start something, or when you're trying to change something, sometimes there are so many options that it gets a little frustrating or stressful. Or what if I choose the wrong one? Or what if I do this and it's weird? Anyway, it will be sort of, it will be something that's really simple and kind of narrows things down for you. So you can have something to jump from.
Yes. Yep. And maybe our first spiritual practice is to be kind to ourselves while we're learning.
I love that. That's a good point.
Let's be easy about this, right?
Yeah. And also, I think it can be something you play with, right? Like if we come at it with the spirit of like, I'm kind of experimenting, or I'm trying this out, then we don't put as much stress on ourselves or as much pressure. So it might be fun to just go, I don't know, I'm going to try all these things and see how it goes.
I love you so much.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thanks. I love you too.
Thank you. Well, thanks you guys for joining us today. We hope that you will share some of your spiritual practices that you love. Definitely. Or any questions you have. You can even reach out to us on Instagram or TikTok and leave a comment there. Obviously on the podcast where you're listening, you can reach us that way too.
Absolutely. And if you just started following us, welcome. We'd love it if you would, follow us and rate us. If we get some good ratings, then other people might want to check us out, and we can increase our little community here, and it'll be lovely.
We got to do this for longer, which is our hope.
I know. I agree. Absolutely.
Have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.
Yes, thanks.